Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, your host. I'm solo today, but it's because I've been doing a little bit of research. I've really tried to go back and identify when Texas kind of built and Steve Sarkisian built this ability to move forward as a much better program overall. And I go back to two recruiting classes. 2021 recruiting class, one that included Jonathan Brooks, Jatavion Sanders, guys like Jade Barron. However, that 2021 recruiting class was not a Steve Sarkisian recruiting class as much as it was Tom Herman. Herman obviously got fired at the Alamo Bowl after a lot of those guys had already chosen Texas. And so I go back and look at Steve Sarkisian's first recruiting class, and that was the 2022 recruiting class. In general, the numbers I have here are pretty interesting to me, and I want to go about and go about it this way. First and foremost, uh, a recruiting class and the measure of success in it is anytime you have 12 or more guys that are either starters and or key contributors anywhere down the line, 12 or more. That's just been the number forever. 13 plus is big time. 15 plus is a great recruiting class. To give you an example, so what does that mean for the University of Texas and what this 2022 recruiting class has done? It's already produced what I would call 5 starter level players and 8 depth guys plus 3 others that have transferred that were key depth. So you're really talking about of the 28 players that signed, high school players that signed in 2022 with the University of Texas, 13 have already had key roles and or are going to be playing key roles this year, plus a starter that is transferred, plus 3 others. I mean, you're talking 16, 17 total. And so let's go down this list. First and foremost, and this does not include portal prospects for 2022, which, by the way, includes none other than Quinn Ewers to that list. So this is the year that I think Steve Sarkisian kind of turned the tables on people and on the Texas program overall, because it was a key year following a recruiting class that was good but not great from a depth perspective. But I'm looking at the starters already, or starter level snap guys in this recruiting class from 2022. Obviously, you start with Kelvin Banks. He was the centerpiece of the class, as was DJ Campbell. Both of them starters on the offensive line. Then you look at other guys. Jaden Blue is now a starter at the University of Texas. You think of that. Cameron Williams adds a third offensive lineman to the starter list, and we'll go even deeper on that because that's probably where Texas was healthiest. And then you got struck a little gold later in the class, signing Ethan Burke on signing day. So those are 5 surefire starters right now: Williams, Burke, Campbell, Banks, and Blue right now. So those 5 are surefire starters. Then let's look a little bit deeper. Okay. Terrence Brooks was also in that class. He was a late flip. He has actually started a year and a half for the University of Texas before transferring out. So you have to include him as a guy that provided immediate strong numbers for the University of Texas. But really, and I want to say this the right way, the strength of the 2022 class was not necessarily at the top, even though Kelvin Banks may go in the top 5 or 10 in the NFL draft, even though Cam Williams and Jaden Blue and DJ Campbell and those guys are NFL players. It's the depth. And I look at the 2024 season, football season, and this is where I come out why the 2022 class is so important. Here are the guys that are key backups for Texas. And the offensive line is just phenomenal. Not only has Cole Hudson actually started a full season, I now am considering him a depth guy, but Cole Hudson and Nato Umeozulu are the first guys off the bench, if not going to win a job this year. So you have to include them as depth. Malik Ogbo and Connor Robertson, both are in the rotation as well. Malik as a jumbo tight end. Connor Robertson's your number 2 center right now. Even if I know they've got some other guys that are pushing him, but just like against OU last year, if Jake Majors goes out, Connor Robertson's your second string center. Then that's just the offensive line. Texas did not sign a non-good offensive lineman out of the 7 they signed that year. 7. Kyle Flood went 7 for 7, in my opinion, from a depth perspective at the most important position Texas had to domino in 2022. And so as you look at this whole class as a combined total, where I think they got 16 or 17 quality players out of the 28, 7 of them alone were on the offensive line that have contributed to Texas winning, in my opinion. Now, there are other positions. Jalen Gilbo was also in that class. And don't forget, he started a game his true freshman year before Jade Barron got back and got healthy. Then Gilbo last year was sidelined much of it with an injury. He's now back and raring to go. I think he's a part of this equation as well as a key depth piece for Texas. Other key depth pieces for Texas, 3 of them along the defensive line. Justice Finkley, not a starter. Ethan Burke's been a starter. Barron Sorrell's been a starter. But it's hard to say that Justice Finkley hasn't played a key role on this football team since he's arrived in Austin and will continue to do so this year. Jure Bledsoe is a young man that is expected to kind of peak a little bit or begin peaking soon. He's a redshirt sophomore now. And frankly, he may be the most talented defensive lineman on the roster as of right now. Will we see more of him this year? I don't know, but he's building into that key depth piece at the very least this season. So again, a good signing, another guy that adds to the list. You also add a guy that Steve Sarkisian on the defensive front has talked about quite a bit as being key to a key depth piece, and that's Aaron Bryant. Aaron Bryant out of Mississippi came along and is another one that Texas has gotten a very, very good value out of. You look at this list, and what's interesting to me is, Texas has even lost a couple of guys to the portal that had been key depth pieces. Savion Red, now going to Nevada, actually had a role on this Texas team. Terrence Brooks, we mentioned, going to Illinois. Then you have Malik Murphy, who started a couple of games for Texas at quarterback, kind of got pushed out probably by Arch Manning's value there. And then Austin Jordan. Austin Jordan played quite a few snaps for Texas last year, not only on special teams, but also in the secondary. So you have 4 guys actually that have now transferred that had some level of value. Another depth piece for me that I did not mention, Will Stone, the starting kickoff guy, as well as Lance St. Louis, the starting deep snapper. So all in all, Texas has this 2022 class, in my opinion, is the one that kind of turned the tables. The offensive line being incredible. You look at total numbers right now, and you could project out a few starters. So I said they've had 5 starters already, not including Terrence Brooks, who's already gone. So they've really got 6 starters already. You add other guys that I think will return or become starters. Out of that, you had 6, plus you add Neto Umeozulu, who I think will be a starter long-term. You have Jure Bledsoe, who I think will be a starter long-term. You have Jalen Gilbo, who I think will be a starter long-term. And then you add Cole Hudson, who I think will also be a starter long-term. And so if you add those 4 guys to the 2022 recruiting class, I think you're going to end up with 10 eventual starters out of 28 scholarships offered or tendered. Given all of that, that is a phenomenal class. Then you add in the depth pieces as well. I think the 2022 class is the one that turned the tables for the University of Texas and Steve Sarkisian. We talk about it a lot. The 2021 class with so many good players absolutely played a major role in that. I mean, you can't forget a guy like Byron Murphy, and you can't set him short or hit him short on what he created in that 2021 class, along with Jatavian Sanders, as well as Jonathan Brooks, all 3-year and gone players for the University of Texas. Xavier Worthy was in that class as well. So there's a lot of those guys that I think are of value or valuable, so to speak. But the volume in that 2021 class was not there at all. I think there was only 7 players from that class that really made a dent at Texas overall, and that's just not enough. So the way I look at it right now, if you're telling me when did things change for the University of Texas, and asking me that question from a big picture perspective as we head into the 2024 season, I don't think it's any question that it really turned on a dime with Steve Sarkisian's 2022 class. Longhorns will end up with at least 10 starters, in my opinion, out of that recruiting class, which is phenomenal. Another 7 or 8 from a depth perspective. Just a phenomenal recruiting class. And why, a large reason why Texas is headed where they're at into the SEC on a up note. I want to give proper acknowledgement, really, to the 2022 class today, because I think those guys are the foundation, and they've laid the foundation for what Texas will be in college football, not only this year, but a couple of years to come with guys like Gilbo, Bledsoe. Still a lot of folks out there. Ethan Burke still, Campbell, Banks, Williams. The list goes on and on. All right, that'll do it for this update. Some interesting stuff there, in my opinion. The class of 2022 will go down as the one that laid the foundation for Texas football.